Hey there, Braves fans. Welcome to another edition of State of the Braves. I'm your host, George McNair. Well, guys, after a maybe low point of the season in Oakland, dropping 2 out of 3 to the lowly Oakland A's, the Braves go into Arizona and take 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks, when the Braves arrived in Phoenix, actually had the best record in the National League. The Braves take 2 out of 3 from them. And we are starting to feel a little bit better about the Braves. It was not the perfect series by any means. The Braves dropped game 1 when they probably should have won it. But they also snag game 3 out of the jaws of defeat thanks to an Eddie Rosario grand slam. So everything feels a little better when you win a series, even if it's not perfectly played, and especially when you win a series against a very good team. And the Diamondbacks definitely proved in this series that they're an up-and-coming team. If you guys were able to watch this, Corbin Carroll really impressed, both offensively and defensively. They clearly have some good pitchers there, but the Braves were also able to get to Zach Gallen, who has been the best pitcher in the National League in the first half, and they were able to beat him in game 3. So after losing game 1, and I will say Ozzie Albies could not come through in game 1, and that was a pretty disappointing moment in the 9th inning with Ozzie Albies coming up, man on third, 1 out, and unable to get the sac fly to bring him in, and the Braves lost that game. But after game 1, the Braves earn a solid 5-2 victory behind Spencer Strider and a massive home run from Ronald Acuna Jr. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And just generally, that was a little more balanced offensive attack. They only scored 5 runs, but there were just a lot of good at-bats in that game, and I wonder if things are starting to turn around offensively. It just seemed like a concerted effort for the Braves to go up the middle and the other way a little bit more in that game, and to me, they always hit better when they're doing that and not just pulling off the ball, turning and burning and that sort of thing. So I am getting a little more encouraged about their offensive attack, and then they go into game 3 and score 8. Now, game 3 was looking like another frustrating defeat. They come into the 9th inning down, and they're able to pull it out with an Eddie Rosario 2-out go-ahead grand slam. So Eddie comes through again. He's not the most consistent player in the world, but he can get hot, and when he's hot, he can be one of the best hitters on the planet. I mean, it happens for short amounts of time, but Eddie Rosario can get hot, and when he does, look out. And we've been really waiting for that pretty much all season, and it happened in Arizona. So this is really a huge series win against a very good team, and it is pretty awesome to beat Zach Gallen, especially in Arizona. It just does not happen very often, guys, that he gets beat in Arizona. I did think that from the very first hitter of the game, he got really frustrated with the umpire, and some close calls did not go his way, and it seemed all game those close calls were not going his way. And I don't know if it's not like the Braves demolished him. I mean, they only scored 3 runs off of him, but even 3 runs off of Gallen in Arizona is a rare thing, and it let the Braves at the very least stay in the game, and then, of course, they end up winning it late. Coming into this series, I was hearing a couple different commentators and podcasters talking about it's time to bench Eddie Rosario. And I'll be honest, I certainly was starting to listen to those voices. Eddie has not been super great this season at any time, and yet this series he breaks out. I don't know if he was listening to those guys and it lit a fire under him, or if that is just a coincidence. But 6 hits in this series, including 3 home runs. He had 2 solo home runs, which was the only offense in game 1, 1 into the pool and 1 the other way. And then, of course, he shows up. He was 0 for 4 going into the 9th inning, and then he hits this huge grand slam to win the game. It was just awesome. Eddie has, in kind of one series, started to turn around his season. He's nearing 500 slugging percentage, which is a big deal for anybody who is supposed to be a power hitter, which he is. He's at a 472 slugging percentage, so that's definitely in much more respectable territory. It's right about the same slugging percentage as Ozzie Albies. It's actually higher than Austin Riley by a decent amount. That might also tell you that Riley's still not there yet, guys. He has been better over the last 2 weeks, but I'm still looking for him to start hitting one of those really hot Austin Riley streaks. So that's another issue. But I will just say, Eddie Rosario, man, you could not have picked a better time to show up and start really hitting the ball than you did in Arizona. And like I said, Ozzie Albies also has started to do some things. It was kind of a Jekyll and Hyde series for Ozzie Albies because he came out of he had that big home run in Oakland, which was some of their only offense, and it helped us win that last game of the Oakland series. Then he comes into Arizona and he does nothing for the first 2 games, including that really disappointing at bat in the ninth inning of game 1. And I just already mentioned that to you guys. But then game 2, the very first at bat of game 2, almost the exact same thing happened to him. He can't get the run in with less than 2 outs with a runner on third. And, I will just say Ozzie is not the most reliable hitter when you just need a situational at bat to get in a run. He's just not. Ozzie is kind of like, for lack of a better term, it's kind of like Russian roulette out there. Sometimes great things happen, and he showed that in game 3, but oftentimes he can go up and give you what looks like some of the worst at bats in big moments. But, I'm not hating on Ozzie Albies because he can also give you some great stuff, and he showed that in game 3. He goes 4 for 5 in game 3, all from the left side of the plate, by the way, which he's obviously tends to struggle more from the left side. He had a home run against Zach Gallen. It was one of the early, big moments for the Braves. And so I give him a lot of credit, and hopefully that is a sign of some turnaround. It seemed like he was allowing the ball to travel a little bit more as well. And like I said, I think that was really something the Braves started doing a really good job of in game 2. And with Ozzie, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, he had 2 base hits the other way from the left side, which he doesn't do very often. And again, that big home run as well against Gallen. So some good things from Ozzie, and hopefully that is going to start turning him around as well. Ronald Acuna, he doesn't need a turnaround. He just continues to dominate the National League. He had that monster home run in game 2 that traveled 464 feet. And guys, for a guy who's basically 6 foot and under 200 pounds to be pretty much the preeminent long ball hitter in baseball is just so remarkable. He doesn't have the most home runs of anybody in baseball. He is an all-around hitter with a high average, but the home runs he hits goes longer than anybody consistently. And, the numbers bear that out. And he is a remarkable, special player. And it's just true. Nobody else plays the game like he does. And I just hope that he continues to do it at this elite level all season. He continues to steal. He had 2 more steals in game 3. And guys, right now, his numbers, he's hitting .331, 12 home runs, 26 stolen bases. And, he is on pace, and this is my math, so sorry if I'm a little off, but he's on pace for 214 hits, 33 home runs, and 71 steals. No one has ever had a 30-60 year. He could have a 30-70 year, or if he goes on a home run binge, which we know he's capable of doing that, he can even get those home runs to 40. It's still within reason for him to have a 40 home run season. So we know Acuna is the best player in baseball. We've known that for a long time. His injuries, maybe some of us forgot how great he was, but he's just reminding us day in, day out. And I think he also made some tweaks when he was, struggling through last season. They say he really worked on some tweaks to his stance, lowering his hands, and he's hitting .331. As great as we know he's been, he actually has never been this great in terms of his average. I mean, .331 batting average for Acuna is just kind of next level, and I just appreciate him a lot, and hope you guys do too. It's special to see out there. So one of the frustrating things or disappointing things about game 3 was Michael Soroka and his play, guys. And I mentioned to you, I'm a huge fan of Soroka. I'm going to root for him every time out, but he didn't have it. And it might just be a reminder that he's not quite there yet in terms of what he has to do to really fully get back to being a quality starting pitcher in the big leagues. So he goes 3 2/3 innings, gives up 5 earned runs. And if you watch this game, he was just, he did not have his command. Ball kind of in and out of the strike zone. It almost looks like he doesn't have much of a plan up there, which he probably does. I want to give him credit. I think he probably does. But when you don't have command, it does look a little more random up there. Most of his balls were high. It was kind of belt high or higher. And especially when you're throwing a lot of change-ups and sliders, that's not a good recipe for success. He gave up 2 home runs. He allowed 4 walks in those 3 2/3 innings, and almost everything he gave up was with 2 outs. He just couldn't get out of innings. So, it's disappointing, and I'm sure Soroka, more than anybody else, is disappointed with his play. He has high expectations for himself. And if you missed the news, after the game, it was announced that he was being sent back down to AAA. I was pretty surprised by that, because everything the Braves have said is, our plan is for Soroka to come up, and we want him to be ready, and we don't want him to have to go back down to AAA ever again. And, of course, now he is after just 2 starts. So clearly, the Braves saw things that were proving to them that he wasn't quite ready, and some of the numbers bear that out. I'm not giving up on Soroka. I know he's not giving up, and I don't think the Braves are giving up on him. But it is just another thing that he's going to have to overcome in this long struggle back to the big leagues for him. At the same time, as he goes down to AAA, it paves the way for A.J. Smith-Shawver to probably start this weekend. So if you missed Game 3, A.J. Smith-Shawver came out of the bullpen to make his debut and really impressed. He goes 2 1/3 innings, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and just 1 walk. That was the only runner he allowed in his big league debut. So you just saw, if you watched it, an electric fastball. He was in control of that fastball pretty much throughout his outing. The slider wasn't quite as consistent. He did get a couple swings and misses off of it, but the fastball is his bread and butter. And I think if he does get a start, you're going to see some more sliders and probably his third pitch, his curveball a little bit more as well. But I'm excited for this guy. I mean, this is the first time I've really been able to lay eyes on him, and the sky's the limit. If you know his story much at all, he was a highly recruited quarterback out of high school from Texas. And, he joined the baseball team with some of his buddies his junior year just to kind of do it and to hang out with his buddies. And, of course, being a quarterback, everybody knew he could throw a little bit. Well, yeah, he could throw. He could throw about 90-plus miles an hour in high school. And, of course, the Braves end up drafting him in the 7th round. They give him 3rd-round money. So, they're able to sign him instead of him going to, I think he was going to go to Texas A&M to play quarterback. So, this guy, he only has basically pitched for about 4 years. He doesn't have the mileage on his arm that almost everybody else does coming out of high school. A lot of these pitchers, they start pitching at, 8, 9, 10 years old and have had Tommy John by the time they're 17, and it's just not the case for him. So fresh arm, but also he's kind of a blank slate, right? The Braves have been able to really coach him up. I mentioned this last episode, that he has taken to a lot of their coaching. He seems very coachable and has gotten exponentially better in just, 1+ years in the Braves organization. So if this is what he is with just 4 years of baseball experience, what is he going to be, 2 or 3 years from now? It's exciting to think about. I want to pump the brakes a little bit. We've barely seen him. We've only seen him in 1 outing, so we don't know what he's going to be able to show. This guy's only 20 years old. So expectations have to be measured, but it's pretty exciting for the Braves to have another highly touted prospect to come up and potentially give them some a really big lift in their starting rotation. So we'll look forward to seeing him in the rotation soon. One last thing that happened in Game 3, a lot happened in Game 3 in Arizona. Marcell Ozuna, he never disappoints. There's always something going on with Ozuna. He almost hit another home run. Unfortunately, he just missed the home run, and he didn't run out of the box. And what probably should have been at least a double, maybe even a triple if he was really booking it out of the box, ends up only being a single. If you know much about Arizona, that center field is kind of weird. It's basically just a yellow line straight across, and the ball hit just under the yellow line. So he basically jogs to first. This is in the middle of the game. Snitker ends up pulling him out after that inning, and Sean Murphy ended the game at DH instead. Snitker did talk about the incident later. He didn't brush it off, but he basically just said, yeah, when that happens, I've got to pull him out of the game. And he knew it. He knew he should have done it, and he was disappointed with himself that he didn't run out of the box. So I appreciate Snitker for holding the line with that sort of thing. I don't know that every manager in baseball would do that. It might have the potential to wake up the Braves a little bit, just in just being aware of, hey guys, it's time to lock things down a little bit more and play at another level mentally. And I think it's fair to say that the Braves have been a little sloppy with their play at times, with some of their decision making, base running mistakes. There was a big base running mistake in Game 1 that Matt Olson made, got thrown out at third base. So it's just one of those things that I think could only help the Braves if they're paying attention a little bit. So hopefully they are. I don't know if it's as big of a deal as maybe some people make it out to be. It's not surprising to me that it was Ozuna. He's not the most with it guy on the diamond sometimes, but nonetheless, I think we've seen it happen to Acuna. We've seen it happen to some guys who really like to stare down their home runs, and then suddenly it doesn't get out. And I wish guys wouldn't do that, and hopefully it won't happen again for the Braves this season. But now it is time to take on the New York Mets. Guys, this is one reason why this series was so big, is you're going into a big divisional series with the Mets, and you're playing a little better. You beat a good team in a 3-game series in the Diamondbacks. The Mets are not playing their best ball right now. The Braves aren't either, but the Mets definitely aren't. They're 30-30 on the season. They're 5-5 in their last 10, and they just got swept, I believe, by the Blue Jays. So they're definitely searching for some consistency too. I'm sure they're going to be highly motivated, as always, as they enter this series. And the pitching matchups really make it a tough series. I think the Braves really need to take 2 out of 3. A sweep would be awesome as always, especially against the Mets. But here are the matchups for the pitching for each game. So Game 1 is Carrasco versus Bryce Elder. Game 2 is Scherzer and Morton. And Game 3 is Verlander versus Strider. So Game 1, I think, really favors the Braves. Carrasco hasn't been all that good this year, and he's had some injury. Game 2, Scherzer versus Morton. It's just 2 old veterans going at it, so we'll see how that one goes down. Morton's been pretty good this year, so hope for some good things there. And then Game 3 is the real matchup. I mean, that's interesting. Verlander, the grizzled veteran flamethrower, versus Strider, the young flamethrower. And Game 3 will also be pretty fun to watch. If you guys don't know, the Braves are putting 4 former Braves all in the booth together in Francoeur, Smoltz, Glavine, and Chipper Jones, and with basically no play-by-play guy. So it will be an interesting watch, and I like that they're doing that. It's cool to hear from all of those former Braves, and I'm sure together it's going to be a pretty fun broadcast, especially with that pitching matchup as well. So a lot to look forward to this week for the Braves, guys. Man, I'm glad Eddie Rosario hit that grand slam, and it just makes you feel a whole lot better. Even though, it's just one swing, it just makes you feel a whole lot better about the Braves and what they did in what was a pretty weird West Coast road trip. But they come back to Atlanta. They get a day off Monday. They play the Mets Tuesday, and we will certainly all be watching, guys. I appreciate you listening and watching if you're watching on YouTube. Again, just a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. I appreciate it, and I just really appreciate you guys and your support, and I'll talk to you later.